So I'm at Sherridon Community Cemetery in Sheridan, Manitoba, which is located about 100 kilometers off the main number 10 highway in the community of Sheridan here. This old cemetery dates back to about the 30s, and the first few burials in here would have been people that were working on the railway track, which was going north, and then the community got settled. A lot of white crosses in the cemetery. Hopefully a lot of them are marked, but I can see a couple headstones, and so we're going to walk around. So this is the older chunk of the cemetery here. Most of the graves are from the 40s. A lot of unmarked graves are marked just with wooden crosses. Not too many that I saw that were actually marked with a name per se, but their graves are at least marked with a cross. Some of the older headstones here though, this one here, they went through all the trouble of covered in concrete, putting up a concrete plinth, but there's no nameplate associated with that one. This is the only veteran in the whole cemetery that I know of that actually has a veteran's headstone. That was the one that I was wondering about. And it's Private Stuart Fidler, 1914 to 1947. I'm going to end up cleaning this one here just because it's a veteran's headstone. He died in a plane crash post-war, but he's not an in-service death. There's a couple over here with some nameplates, like steel plates. One I just picked up off the ground. The other one I could see earlier, but I didn't see this one here. This one here is Hugo Palmgren, 1900 to 1960. And this is Lily Tucker, 1900 to 1954. And there's a few other scattered headstones, but the majority, vast majority, are just white crosses. And so what I've done is I took the whippersnipper out and I cleaned all the ones with headstones so you can actually read. There's one back here that's in Cyrillic language, so it's probably an Eastern European that was working on the railroad. I'd have to research that one more. Frank Carr, though, it's Mason's grave. Walter Lewicki, I think he might be another veteran. I can't remember, born in Renver. But you see all these these wooden crosses just laying on graves everywhere. And there's a stack over here, so I don't know if they're replacing them. Dug this one out. It was all broken. This is Torn Wowchuck. It's only 2 years old, not even 2 years old. And so a lot of the older graves are marked. And here we got Donald Edward Black. He was only 11. If I remember correctly, I think he drowned. And I've seen photos of just this angle right here, but obviously not what's going around here. So to get in here, you have to come into town, turn at, I think it's Sharon's Outfitters. Turn right there. It's a green building. Keep coming until you cross over to the tracks, and then you gotta, there's a couple different roads. And then you got to follow the road that's closest to the track. So the entire cemetery is delineated with a fence. And due to the ground conditions here, I've seen some pre-dug graves that are actually pretty shallow because they hit bedrock. And there's lots of rock in here. So there's nothing really in this back corner. Everything's kind of going from that corner, which is the oldest chunk, and around and to that way. So you have a lot of indigenous names for this area in here as well. So I'm going to clean the veterans' headstones and take photographs of what we can here, and then that is it. But that is Sherridon Community Cemetery in northern Manitoba. And I've already taken out the whippersnipper to clean up some of the headstones so I can read them. And I'm going to clean up this veteran's grave right away. So it's a headstone of Private Stuart M. Fidler, 1914 to 1947. Lest we forget, this is one of the Garson quarry stones that they used at the time period. The stone is sunk off. It's actually been knocked off its foundation, which is underneath here. But I'm probably going to put it right back over that hole just so it's not a tripping hazard. But I'm going to get out the water and the scrub brushes and the D2 and clean this up and give some remembrance back to Stuart M. Fidler. So I'm just going to start off with some water here, and sorry about the shadows, but this is the best setup for me. So I'm going to give it a good wipe down here. Spray down. This is just water. And going to try to give him a good enough scrubbing so that it's identifiable as a veteran. And then I'm going to try and put it back into this hole somehow so that it's safe. Next up is the scraper. Scrape off all this moss and lichen. And like I said, I think he died in a plane crash post-war. I think he might have been Royal Canadian Engineers, if I remember correctly. I don't know if he was from Sheridan, but we know he died here and this is where he was buried. So could be that he had no other family and this is just where he happened to be buried. But back in 47, this would have been, he would have had to gone onto the rail station to get buried elsewhere and shipped down on the railway line. If he wasn't buried here, he would have been buried in the Paw, just because that's where they would have shipped him to. So there's a good chance that with Fidler, he's likely from Sheridan. He's just not war dead. He fits into those the dates that were accepted for war dead, but he died post discharge. That's why he's not a Commonwealth war grave. So I'm going to give this guy a scrub here, get most of this off here, and go from there. So I'm going to try a different angle here for scrubbing. First off, I'm going to put a little D2 biological solution on here. This allows me to loosen up all that biological growth. And I'm going to let that set in. Well, sun conditions don't really allow for the greatest of filming here, but we're going to use a series of different brushes here to clean off the surface of this headstone. Now, in Manitoba and Saskatchewan, you'll see a lot of these style of flat markers because this is what they could afford at the time with the last post fund and Veterans Affairs. Problem is, a lot of them were installed without any sort of a foundation before cemeteries really got into requesting foundations for headstones. So if the grave's not maintained properly, or the headstone I mean, then a lot of these ones you'll find a lot of these ones sinking into the ground. So I'm going to take the scraper here again, see what else I can get off. Oh yeah, D2's got that pretty good. And it only takes sometimes a few minutes for the D2 to act. And you get it loosening it up quite a bit. And you can get these scrapers at any hardware store. They're just little plastic paint scrapers. Okay, it only took a few minutes, and you have the headstone cleaned up here. We're going to clean the lettering next. Okay, I just actually gave it another shot of D2. I want to loosen this up as much as I can, and then we're going to get into the letterings. And I got another brush for inside the letters that I use. All depending on what you want done. I can get these done in about half an hour, but I have taken as long as 4 hours cleaning one of these stones. So it's just a matter of how much effort you want to put into something. And I have a various amounts of different brushes. Some are harder than others, some are softer. But you have to really get into these letters to get them truly clean, and then I just use some toothpicks. Okay, gonna do a rinse. This is just water. Don't use any chemicals on a headstone other than D2. All you really need to do is get water and a brush, and it'll come out clean. I'm not going to go too haywire on the sides here. I'll give it a light cleaning, but I just want to get the front up. I want to make sure it's identifiable as a veteran. So I'm just going to get in here with some toothpicks, loosen up this gunk some, and depending where you're at, sometimes this is really bad, sometimes it's not so bad, but toothpicks is the trick here. And you just go inside the lettering. This is granite from the Garson quarry, so it's pretty tough, pretty durable. But if it's not cut the right way, then the moss and the lichens and whatnot can get in here. And we want to make sure we're giving Stuart Fidler his due here, so that he has a clean headstone. Okay, giving it a rinse again. See, we got quite a bit of that gunk out of there. I'll be reporting this headstone to Veterans Affairs so they can put it into the National Veterans Database. I do not think they were out here ever inspecting this. They probably don't even know about it. Sheridan's pretty hard to get to. It's 100 kilometers off the main highway, and that road's all twisty and turny and gravelly. So they probably don't even know it's here. But I'll be reporting it to Veterans Affairs. Okay, I'm going to scrub and wash at the same time. Okay, I'm going to give another treatment of D2. Typically like to scrub till it washes clean, and it's washing pretty clean here. Okay, so there's not much more to that other than letting it dry. I'm actually going to air blow it, and then so it's done. Okay, so you can see foundation was right here, but it's sunk down. But I don't want anybody tripping into this hole, so all I'm doing is can't even get it level. There. Okay. Back up out of the ground, cleaned. We know where Stuart Fidler is now. Okay, so Stuart Fidler's headstone has been cleaned, placed back in the original position that it was at. And there you go, night and day. Private Stuart M. Fidler, 1914-1947, lest we forget. As I recall, he was Royal Canadian Engineers. It's not on his headstone. Cut the grass around there. And he's in the back corner here of Sherridon Community Cemetery. There's another veteran buried in this cemetery, but he doesn't have a veteran's headstone. And maybe, if I'm lucky, one of the marked graves is actually marked enough for me to identify it. Getting late in the afternoon here. Just photographed the entire cemetery, whether the grave was marked or not. Most of them are unidentified, but hopefully be able to do a plot plan. Going to check in with the community, see if they do actually have a plot plan. Might get lucky. Seems as a rule the older graves tend to have markers, and so do the newer ones. So gonna walk around here again, maybe take some cell phone pics, but I did it with my digital camera already. And I'm gonna take photos of some of the more some of the older graves and ones that are actually marked. So one of the things I noticed is it's possible that some of the graves around here are marked with just stones. I think these wooden crosses were afterthoughts after the fact, because a lot of them are delineated with stones. The fence came down here at one point and knocked some crosses down. So those have been lying there for I don't know how long. Fence needs to be repaired, but that's up to the community. Long metal poles, and these are quite old graves here. And the reason I know that is the first one that's actually identified here is this big cross, and it's written in Cyrillic, and it indicates somebody from 1928 to 1930, so this would have been a child. And here we have another child. This is in lovely memory of Gail Knowles, died August, it looks like 8th or 9th, 1940, age 6 weeks. So this is the older section of the cemetery here. And we have James Patrick, who died December 1942. There's actually another funeral home marketer in there from the 90s. I'm assuming it's the son. And so these burial humps are done here. So there's a hump here, hump there, marked grave. There's something right there. There's another grave here, grave here. I can't tell if there's anything here or not. But George Murray's right there. He died in 1950. There is a knocked over wooden cross back there. I don't know if this is a delineator or not. I think it is. And there's a couple graves back here. And I just noticed that white one back there. I'm going to go down back there and take a photograph of that. Okay, so I'm glad I walked through the cemetery again because there is another grave back here. Just going to walk around the other side. And it's not marked, but there's a burial hump here and there's a cross. And somebody put a reef in here, so I'm going to photograph this real quick.